noticed something that a lot of Latinos are not going to like. Why is it that when Black people start communities to help founders or VC firms that are focused to help Black founders, they always include us? It is always Black and Hispanic or Black and Latino or Black and Brown. Literally every single community accelerator program VC firm that I know that was built with the intention of supporting more Black founders is built inclusive. Yet when Latinos build something, it is always for the Latinos only. This is for Latinos. It's never Latinos and Black people. It's never Latinos and other systemically marginalized. It's never Latinos and other immigrants. It's always Latinos, Latinas. And I will tell you, the number one thing you need in your life to be successful in anything is abundance. But the abundance mindset is something that seems to be really difficult to achieve for Latinos in the United States. There's constantly the scarcity, limited belief that is us, just us. And then we cry that no one ever supports us. The call is coming from inside the house. And let's not forget that oftentimes Latinos will be the worst enemy for another Latino, but that's a whole other topic. But I'm just so frustrated to see even more Latino-focused communities pop up that are only for Latinos, because not being inclusive hurts you guys more than anyone else ultimately. And when you see communities that do that, the us mindset, they try to rebrand it as empowering. I want you to pay attention to one thing, because that will tell you everything. Are those communities, those firms, those programs actually doing anything to move the needle for its members? Or are they actually monetizing off of the desperation of Latinos that are looking for support and community?
Welcome back to the Black Tea Podcast, the place where we steep into the complex, sometimes uncomfortable, but absolutely necessary conversations that shape our communities. We're going to be discussing the dynamics of inclusion and exclusion, particularly as it relates to the interactions between the Latino and Black communities in the United States. Before we begin, let me share my perspective, which I believe is rooted in the principle of collective liberation. I firmly believe that our struggles are interconnected, and that to truly dismantle systemic oppression, we must operate from a place of solidarity and intersectionality. We need to see ourselves as allies, not competitors, and while acknowledging the unique experiences each community has, it's also important that we critically analyze how our own actions might be contributing to the very divisions we seek to overcome. So, with that in mind, let's get into this topic. I recently came across a perspective that I feel is important to unpack, and this perspective has been brewing in my mind for a while as I've seen it reflected in real life. It's the observation that many Black-led initiatives, those that are intentionally designed to uplift the Black community, often embrace inclusivity from the outset. I'm talking about programs aimed at founders, venture capital firms, accelerators, all with the stated goal of supporting Black entrepreneurs. And yet, many of these initiatives also welcome Latino participation. This, to me, is a reflection of an understanding that our struggles are interconnected. But when we turn our attention to Latino-led efforts, the picture often looks different. These initiatives frequently seem to be primarily, if not exclusively, focused on serving other Latinos. Now, this is not to make accusations. It's a discussion point that we need to have openly and honestly. Why do we see this disparity? Why, in one case, is there an understanding that lifting one marginalized group should also include other marginalized groups, while in the other, there seems to be a more insular focus? The source material suggests that a scarcity mindset might be at play within some segments of the Latino community. The idea that there is a limited amount of resources available, which leads to an us mentality of hoarding resources within one's own group. Now, I understand how such a mindset could be formed. The historical context of marginalization and oppression, the constant struggle for resources, the very real threat of being overlooked can lead to a defensive posture. But I believe that this can be incredibly limiting. And this is what I want to highlight today. An exclusive mindset can ultimately hinder the progress of the very community it intends to support. When you limit participation, you're also limiting the diversity of thought, collaboration opportunities, and the overall impact that the initiatives can have. In essence, you are limiting yourself. It's like saying, I want to build a successful business, but I'm only going to hire from my own family or my own neighborhood. You would be cutting yourself off from access to talent and diverse perspectives. And when you don't have a diverse group of perspectives, your project can be weakened. The source material also highlights a critical question we all need to be asking when we are analyzing community initiatives. Are these Latino-focused programs and initiatives actually moving the needle for their members, or are they primarily generating profit from the desperation of individuals seeking support and a sense of community? Is the idea of empowerment merely a facade to extract value without offering genuine, lasting solutions? These are essential questions that we should be asking each other, and I do believe that this critical lens can help us all build stronger communities. It is also imperative to state here that I am not generalizing. Not all Latinos are operating in this way, and it would be unfair to paint everyone with the same brush. I recognize that there are nuances, complexities, and historical factors that contribute to the way various communities operate. But I do think we need to acknowledge that some trends do exist, and these trends do have a negative impact on our community as a whole. We cannot shy away from having these difficult conversations because they're absolutely critical if we are going to grow. We, as marginalized people, need to see the absolute necessity of building bridges instead of walls. It's about understanding that our unity is our strength. This isn't just a nice platitude, but a strategic imperative. When we work together, when we lift each other up, when we operate on the same page, we achieve so much more. It's a matter of greater resources, of having more people fighting for all of us. It's about the ability to share each other's experience. There is so much more progress to be made when we are moving forward together, and we all have to see this is not a zero-sum game. It's about a collective rise. Another idea that is important to explore is the idea of focusing inward, which can sometimes be an easy trap to fall into. But we have to break from these cycles, and we have to start with these difficult conversations. Building inclusive spaces where everyone can thrive is a responsibility that we all share. It's not something that's just left up to some people to create for others. It's a collective responsibility that we all have, individually and as part of our communities. So, how do we move forward? Well, first, I think it's about being intentional in our actions and our approach to community building. We need to be conscious, not just passive bystanders. This means we must ask critical questions, not just of others, but most importantly, of ourselves. Are we creating inclusive initiatives that welcome diverse perspectives? Are we sharing our resources and knowledge? Are we actively working to build bridges with other marginalized communities? Let's seek out collaborative opportunities, share our resources, and embrace the vastness of diverse perspectives. Because, ultimately, our liberation is interconnected. The more that we understand that, the more we will understand how much is at stake when we allow ourselves to be divided. I want to emphasize that this is not about pointing fingers or assigning blame. This is about critical self-reflection, and it's about having difficult but necessary conversations so that we can all move forward. We are all responsible for creating the world that we want to see, and that world will only exist if we are all working together. Now, I want to shift gears slightly and talk about some real-world examples that I've come across, both in my personal life and in the news. I've seen how various communities have successfully collaborated, and I've also witnessed the challenges that arise when groups operate in isolation. And what I've noticed is that when you foster a spirit of inclusion, you unlock so much potential. When different communities share ideas and resources and experiences, you're creating a synergy that is so much more powerful than anything you could do in isolation. So, I'd like to explore this idea of collaborative initiatives, and I want to invite you, my audience, to chime in on the comments section below and share your own stories and examples so that we can all learn from each other. I also think it's important to address the discomfort that these conversations may bring up. Talking about these issues can be difficult, and it can often lead to defensiveness or resistance. But growth cannot happen without discomfort. If we want to see real change, then we have to be willing to engage in challenging conversations with ourselves as well as others, and to do it from a place of respect. What I would like to leave you with today is a message of hope and of unity. we can create a world where all of us can thrive. We have the power to build communities that are inclusive, equitable, and just. But it requires that we let go of limited thinking. It requires that we embrace our interconnectedness, and it requires that we commit ourselves to working together. So, let's keep having these difficult conversations, let's keep showing up, and let's keep doing the work. Thank you for joining me on the Black Tea Podcast today. This is a conversation that needs to continue, so I encourage you to share your thoughts and comments below, and also to share this episode with others. Let's continue this discussion, and let's commit to working together for the betterment of all our communities. Until next time, stay thoughtful, stay connected, and keep steeping that black tea.